Hello, hello. Hey, everyone. Mira Day. Wow. Starting it off with a freaking super chat. Thank you so much. What's up, Bigfoot? Hey, Patrick. Glad you guys could join. Hey, Hope. Thanks for joining. Cactus Pear Jam. What's up? What's up? All right, Gatsby. Hey, Gatsby. How's it going? What's up, Dee Dee? I'm glad you could join. Hey, Nikki. Nice to see you again. Streety McMeaty. What's up? Good evening. It is Father's Day. Yeah, if you haven't said Happy Father's Day to your fathers, go ahead. Please do so. Fathers are pretty important, I do believe. It's hot these days. Oh my god. Well, it's 80 degrees indoors now, or 82 or something now, and it already feels hot. Which is nothing compared to the usual California weather. Probably outside is hotter, but it's getting hotter. I bet it's gonna keep getting really hot. I believe we're in a freaking drought in California. So summer is just starting, so it's gonna get hotter and hotter. So I can expect like 100 degrees or more. What's up, Kel? What's up, Pronto? What is a Pronto? Yeah. Oh my god. So the Bebe murder video hasn't been demonetized yet, which is a surprise. It's been a week, I think. So yeah, it's gotten pretty popular, but and it's been a week, but it hasn't been demonetized yet, which is good news. More money for me. We're gonna have a crazy fire season this year. Oh my god. Yeah, we have that to look forward to. It wasn't a very good fire season last time either. I have no central AC. I have central heating for the cold days. For the cold days that we never have in California, but no central air. I do have a freaking in my bedroom. I do have one of those wall-mounted AC units. Yeah, but I don't have like a central air. Maybe YouTube figures those babies had it coming. Maybe YouTube is pro baby killing. Who knows? What's up, Lord Brisingaro? How do you pronounce that? How do you say that? Is YouTube your full-time job? Yes, it is. This is all I do. I just sit and I make videos. Yeah. Fun, right? I used to have a full-time job, but I quit that a while ago. It's been a while. What's up, LH? Hi from New York. You recently discovered the channel and you love it? Thanks. I'm glad you like the channel. I'm from California, so we're on opposite sides of the country. Yeah, I do have an AC unit, but I never use it. Even when it gets like super hot, I almost never use it. Yeah, I'm used to hotness. I'm used to being hot. Okay, so no, I like hot better than cold. Right? I'd rather be super hot than super cold. I don't know. I don't like that cold feeling, but I can withstand heat pretty well. Jesus, you couldn't do that? Mm. Oh, you did tell me how to pronounce that a long time ago, but I forgot. Brisingaro? Brisingaro. Brisingaro. Yakin, what's up, South Africa? Hey, Daniel. Oh, you changed your name. Cool. You prefer the heat as well? Awesome. All right, before we start, I have some mochi. Oh, hold on. Yeah. This is, what is this? This is strawberry and green tea mochi. All right. I just bought a bunch. Let's see how this tastes. Let's start with the green tea. Ooh. Hmm. Not bad. Not bad. I like the chewiness. It's a very strong. Well, not that strong. It's a decently strong green tea matcha taste, which I like. Can you have a mochi? I don't know. If you knock on my door right now, I'll give you a mochi. How about that? You can't stand being sweaty? Yeah, being sweaty is not good. It's not a good feeling. But I'd rather be a little bit sweaty than super cold. Do I plan on videos, on any videos on East Asian cultures besides Japan? Oh, no. Not at the moment. I think it's going to be Japan for now. It's going to be Japan for now until a long time. Rate it? As far as mochi is concerned, I mean, it's not the best. I have high standards. I'm going to say it's about a 6. A 6 or a 7. How about that? That's the green tea. How about the strawberry? All right. All right, this is the strawberry. I'm not really a fan of strawberry taste, but we'll see. Mmm. It has a strawberry filling in the center. Pretty good. It's also a 6. Both of these are very chewy. I like it. That's true. The novel I'm reading is Chinese. I guess you could call this Chinese content. I guess. Yeah. But this is not like a normal video, like a normal history or like folktale video. Where am I currently living? I am in California, the United States, the best state in the country. Is it a Japanese thing? Yeah. Mochi is Japanese. Sure, you never seen it before? You never had mochi before? I recommend it, it's pretty good. Yeah, they have like really fancy mochi too. They have mochi stuffed with like different types of fillings. They can have like sesame or other toppings around the mochi. This is really good. Yeah, Smiling Proud Wanderer is Chinese. I thought I mentioned that before. This is Chinese. This is not Japanese. This is our little bonus content space. There you go. Not the best state. Hey. Don't denigrate my Californian state, okay? This is the best state in the union. What was the impetus for this stream? I was bored. I don't know. I wanted to have a space where, so if you don't know, like making YouTube, even though I read comments, I don't really get to interact with you motherfuckers that much. So I was like, what can I do that will allow me to, I don't know, like talk to the viewers or get some instant feedback, you know, stuff like that. And I was like, why don't I just read stuff? Yeah, so that's how it started. Yeah, I think I read like one time I did a reading of Japanese like ghost stories, and that went pretty well. I like that. So yeah, that's why I started this thing. Maybe I can do more stuff in the future, but right now I don't have. I'm too busy. So yeah. California is technically a republic. I guess. Isn't every state technically a republic since every state has like a Congress or an assembly? Yeah. Will I ever game? That's a possibility. If I have more time, I might just game. Maybe go to Twitch. Right? Twitch is where the gamers go. I don't know. Thing is, I don't really play games. I used to play freaking World of Warcraft a lot, but I don't play games anymore. I'm open to doing it. I mean, what exactly is Discord? Discord is like a chat server where you can chat with other people and then post pictures and I don't know videos. You can actually go on voice chat and talk via voice to other people if that's what you want. You're right, Cali is expensive tax wise. That's true. That's the one downside. But I mean, we're a pretty good state. We have a lot of food. At least where I live, we have a lot of food, a lot of like ethnic food, a lot of Asian food around. Like we have a lot of boba shops. Like they pop up all the time. So yeah, it's a pretty nice place to live if you're okay with like the cost of living. It's a high cost of living, especially if you live in the big cities like around San Francisco or around Los Angeles. Yeah, it costs a lot to live, I'm not gonna lie. But it's not as expensive as you think. Of course, if you're living within the city, like if you're living within San Francisco, yeah, it's crazy how much it costs. It costs so much money to live. Okay, even people who work in tech, right? Like they work for Google or they work for Facebook or whatever, and they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's even hard for them to live. Right, the rent costs so much that all of that high income is eaten up by their rent. Yeah, but if you're living outside the city, like a little bit on the outside, like not within San Francisco, but in the surrounding areas, it's not that expensive to live. You're a little bit farther away from the city and where people work and stuff like that. But if you're okay, I mean, like people do that, and it's not, it's less expensive. All right, we ready? You're in California right now. What's up, fellow Californian? How's it going? All right, so what happened last week, right? What happened last week? They had a ceremony. They were in the middle of the ceremony to make our hero Ling Hu Chong the headmaster of the Hangshan school. And a bunch of people in the middle of the ceremony, a bunch of people from the unorthodox sects, right? They're his friends now. Okay? A lot of his, they become his buddies now. Okay, he has hundreds of buddies from the unorthodox sects. They come up the mountain to the Hangshan school, and they all join the school. Everyone agreed to join the school, and mainly to lessen his embarrassment, because he didn't want to be. He was embarrassed that he was in a school. He was a headmaster of a school of ladies, right? A school of nuns and women. So everyone joined the school. And then in the middle of that, a bunch of people from the Songshan school, they come up the mountain and they try to attack him, right? Because remember, the plan of the Songshan school is that they want to join all the 5 sword schools into one gigantic school and become like a really powerful school, right? A really powerful sect. And since he obviously would not agree to join, he wouldn't agree to do that. They try to come up and try to stop the ceremony. Yeah. Now, which means that it seems like all of the other schools have already agreed to this plan, right? They've already agreed to join the sword schools into one. Yeah. So they try to stop the ceremony, but with everyone there, including the leaders of Shaolin and Wudang, which are the 2 biggest clans, the 2 biggest sects, they couldn't, and they kind of got their asses kicked by Ying Ying, right? And they got embarrassed by Ying Ying, and they left. And at the end, the leaders of the Shaolin and Wudang schools, they wanted a private meeting with Ling Huchong, and because they wanted to discuss something important. And that's where we left off. How's that? Yeah, not much happened, I think. Donna, what's up, Donna? Hello. You've been going through the playlist. How's it going? All right. Hey, let me know if the audio is okay. I know we've had some audio problems in the past. I've made some changes. Yeah, it should be good. It may pick up too much. Like I know before you didn't pick up when I typed things. But I think you might hear my typing. Yeah. That should be okay. Shouldn't be a problem, right? Yeah, but let me know if the mic picks up too much, then I'll change it. Oh, and Tianbo Guang had his dick cut off. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. He had his dick cut off and he became a monk. Yeah, that was weird. that was random. It sounds awesome, actually. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. My chair is pretty creaky too. Can you hear it? Maybe not. Can you hear it? My chair is kind of creaky. Oh, you didn't hear? Yeah, he did get his ding dong cut off. You did miss that part. Okay, so remember the 2 masters, the leaders of the Shaolin and Wudang schools, they want a secret meeting with Ling Huchang. Yeah, and it seems to be something important. So let's see what it is. Chapter 30, Secret Meeting, Part 1. Ling Huchong led Great Master Fang Zheng and Priest Chong Shu down Qianxing Peak. They hastened through Porcelain Oven Pass and arrived under Mount Cui Ping. Fang Zheng and Chong Shu looked up and saw 2 pavilions on top of the mountain. The pavilions looked as if they were constructed by deities, as their rooftops pierced through the cloud. Fang Zheng sighed and commented, "The person who built this pavilion really had lofty imagination. For a person with high aspirations, nothing in this world is difficult." The three people slowly climbed up the mountain and finally arrived at the Hanging Temple. The Hanging Temple had two pavilions, each 3 stories high and soaring hundreds of feet above the ground. The two pavilions were separated from each other by a distance of tens of steps away and were connected by a sky bridge on the second floor. So it seems to be a very private place. Inside the temple was an old servant woman sweeping the floor. When she saw Ling Huchong, Abbot Feng Zheng, and Priest Chongshu, she just stared at them, not greeting or saluting. More than 10 days ago, Ling Huchong had come here with Yi He, Yi Qing, Yi Lin, and the rest of the disciples, so he knew that this servant was deaf and mute, and that she also did not seem to understand anything or pay attention to anyone. He proceeded to the sky bridge with Feng Zheng and Chongshu in tow. The sky bridge was only a few feet wide. If ordinary people were to ascend the bridge to view the scenery from up there, they would see the empty space all around them, with cloud filling their view, and they would feel as if they were standing in the sky, and it would be unavoidable that they would start to shake and feel as if their limbs had turned into jelly. But these three people were first-class masters, so they were not daunted, and their minds were at ease. Feng Zheng and Chongshu gazed at a hazy cloud in the north, and they were able to faintly see the outline of a city wall. There was also water flowing through the 2 cliffs of Porcelain Oven Pass. The view was really majestic. The ancient people said that one man guarding the pass would stop 10,000 people from passing through. The terrain here really suits this saying, Feng Zheng said. During the years of the Northern Song, Yang Lao ordered Gong E to guard the 3 passes, and he made his base here. This place is strategically placed and would suit any war tactician. From the moment I saw the Hanging Temple, I feel that the building is grand, and I admire the perseverance of people in the old days. But the Hanging Temple became insignificant when you compared it to this 500 li of chiseled mountain path. Ling Huchong was surprised. Priest, you're saying that this several hundred li of mountain path was also man-made? Wait, this is the priest talking. The history book says that Emperor Wei Daowu placed his soldiers here from Mount Zhong to Pingcheng during his first year of reign, and ordered tens of thousands of soldiers to dig out the Hung mountain range to make the 500 li mountain path. Porcelain Oven Path is the end of this road, Feng Chongshu answered. Feng Zheng said, even though it is called 500 li straight road, the majority of it was actually nature-made. Northern Song's Emperor Wei sent out tens of thousands of soldiers only to open a pass through this mountain. But even so, the project was really large and it was shocking for most people. No wonder that so many people want to become an emperor. He only has to open his mouth and say a few words, and tens of thousands of soldiers immediately chiseled out a mountain pass for him, Ling Huchong said. In those ancient times, there were many bold and outstanding heroes. And with this kind of power and influence to aspire to, you can imagine how difficult things were. But you don't need to mention about emperors. There's already a lot of disturbances and continuous fighting in the current Wulin, even without power and influence coming into play, Chongshu told him. Ling Huchong felt a shiver in his heart as he thought, here's come the topic he wants to discuss. He asked, Junior doesn't understand. The 2 seniors, please give me some advice. Headmaster Ling Hu, today, Songshan School's old Yue led a lot of people to come here. What do you think it was for? Feng Zheng asked. Ling Huchong answered, he was conveying Chief Zhuo's order to not allow me to take over the leadership of the Hangshan School. And why is Chief Zuo not willing to allow you to become the headmaster of the Hangshan school? Chief Zuo wants to combine the 5 mountains sword schools into one, and Junior has repeatedly thwarted his plan and has also killed many Songshan school people. So Chief Zuo abhors Junior completely. Fang Zhang asked, "Why do you want to thwart his plan?" Ling Huchong was stupefied and found it hard to answer. He repeatedly mumbled, "Why do I want to thwart his plan?" Fang Zhang asked, "Do you believe that combining the 5 mountain sword schools into one is inappropriate?" At that time, Junior didn't think whether it was appropriate or not, but in order to force the Hangshan school to agree, the Songshan school disguised themselves as the Sun Moon sect, captured the disciples of Hangshan, and besieged Dingjing Shitai, and they used contemptible methods in doing these. Junior coincidentally met these matters and felt that they were wrong. So I helped Hangshan. Later on, the Songshan school wanted to burn Dingxian and Ningyi Shitai in the Sword Forging Valley. This was even more despicable. Junior has thought this over. If merging the 5 mountains sword schools was a good thing, then why doesn't the Songshan school discuss this clearly and openly with each school's headmaster instead of doing all these sly and evil things? Zhang Shu nodded his head before saying, "Headmaster Ling Hu's view isn't wrong. Zuo Langchan's wild ambition is enormous, and he wants to become the number 1 person in Wulin. He himself knows that it's difficult to subdue a lot of people, so he's forced to plot secretly." Fang Zhang sighed before adding, "Chief Zuo is cultured in the military arts and is also an illustrious person in Wulin, and within the 5 Mountains Sword School there's originally no one who could compare to him, but his ambition is too enormous, and he also wishes to overwhelm the 2 schools of Wudang and Shaolin in a hurry, so it's unavoidable that he would use some unscrupulous methods to achieve this." Changshu said, "Shaolin School is publicly accepted as the leader of Wulin. Wudang is on the same level as Shaolin. Kunlun, Eimei, and Kongtong schools are at the next level. Brother Linghu, each of these schools was founded several hundred years ago by numerous heroes who had spent countless sweat and blood in establishing their schools. Every set of their martial arts, every little detail has been refined in those hundreds of years. This isn't just the result from a single day of work. The 5 Mountain Sword Schools Alliance had only established themselves in Wulin within the last 70 to 80 years. Even though they had flourished quickly, their martial arts still aren't as good as Kunlun or Eimei, let alone Shaolin Schools' profound 72 unique arts." Ling Huchong nodded his head in affirmation. Changshu continued, "Within each school, there has also been 1 or 2 talented masters with powerful martial arts. It's common in Wulin that an outstanding master's reputation would be known everywhere. But it would be unprecedented if this reputation were earned solely on strength alone by taking control of all the schools in the realm. Zuo Langchan is full of wild ambition, and this is precisely what he wants to do. When he became the chief of the 5 Mountain Sword Schools Alliance, Great Master Abbot anticipated that things in Wulin would be eventful from then on. In the past few years, Zuo Langchan has acted exactly as Great Master Abbot predicted." Fang Zhang let out a prayer. "Ami to Fu." Chongshu went on, "It was only Langchan's first step when he became chief of the 5 Mountain Sword Schools Alliance. His second step His second step is to merge the 5 mountain sword schools into one and install himself as the headmaster. After merging the 5 schools, he would have a lot of manpower and would become an equal with Shaolin and the Wudang schools. Then, as a third step, he'll absorb Kunlun, Eimei, Kongtong, and Qincheng schools. Then he's certain to declare war on the Devil Sect and lead Shaolin and Wudang schools in attacking them. This would be the fourth step. Ling Wuchang felt fear in his heart as he heard this. This ambitious plan is really hard to execute, and Zhuo Langchan's martial art isn't necessarily unbeatable in this world. How did he come by such an ambitious plan? Changshu answered, "A person's heart is difficult to predict. No matter how difficult a worldly matter is, there's always someone who would want to try it out. Have a look. Wasn't this 500-li mountain path man-made? Wasn't this hanging temple built by someone? If Zhuo Langchan managed to destroy the Devil Sect, then he'll be the best in Wulin. And next he would want to annex Wudang and clean up Shaolin. This could possibly happen. And of course, he doesn't need to rely only on his martial art to do all of these things." Fang Zhang let out another prayer. Ami To Fo. Right now, Zhuo Langchan wants all the Wulin warriors in the realm to be under his command, Ling Wuchang said. "That's right. After that, I'm afraid he'll want to become the emperor. After he's become the emperor, then he would want to have a long life. May you attain boundless longevity. This is called human greed is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. It's been like that since the ancient times. If of all the heroes in this world, there's not many who can escape the trap of power and influence," Changshu said. Ling Wuchang was silent. He couldn't help from shivering as the cold northern wind swept through. We humans only live for dozens of years, and the most important thing in life is to be happy. Why do you have to attain power, influence, and all that? Zhuo Langchan wants to exterminate Kongtong and Kunlun and annex Shaolin and Wudang. How many people would he kill? How much blood would be shed? Changshu clapped and said, "That's right. The 3 of us have this heavy responsibility to prevent Zhuo Langchan from succeeding in order to avoid a bloodbath." Ling Wuchang became alarmed. Priest is making Junior terrified by speaking like that. Junior's knowledge is shallow. I will listen to the seniors' plan. "That day when you led so many heroes to go to Shaolin to meet young Lady Ren, you didn't damage a single grass or tree in Shaolin. Great Master Abbot received your compassion on that day," Changshu said. Ling Wuchang's face turned scarlet. I'm afraid Junior had really made a big disturbance. "After you went away, Zhuo Langchan and the others also left one by one while I stayed on at Shaolin Temple for 7 days to have many long talks with the great Master Abbot. We talked deeply about our worries regarding Zhuo Langchan's wild ambition. That day, just as Ren Wuxing used deceit to gain the upper hand on great Master Fang Zhang, Zhuo Langchan also used deceit to subdue Ren Wuxing. Originally, this would not have been a big deal, but those ignorant disciples in Wulin would say Great Master Fang Zhang isn't Ren Wuxing's match, while Ren Wuxing isn't Zhuo Langchan's match. Ling Wuchang continuously shook his head and disagreed. Not likely, not likely. "We all know that it's unlikely, but Zhuo Langchan's reputation is likely to increase greatly because of this fight, and he will become even more conceited, and his wild ambition will grow even more. Later on, we separately received news of Brother becoming the headmaster of the Hangshan school. We both decided to personally come to Hangshan to attend the ceremony to give our congratulations to discuss about this big matter," Changshu said. Any woman voice acting today? Probably. Or if it's just about the secret meeting, then maybe not. What, you like my female voice? Ling Huchang said, Junior doesn't deserve all the favors that the seniors have shown me. That Yue Ho came to convey Zhuo Langchan's order. He said that on the 15th of the 3rd month, everyone from the 5 mountain sword schools would gather at Songshan to elect the headmaster of the 5 mountains school. This act has long been predicted by great Master Abbot, but we never thought that he would do this so soon. When he said that it was to elect the headmaster of the 5 Mountains School, he made it sound as if the merging of the 5 Mountain Sword Schools were a sure thing. Actually, Hangshan's Mr. Mo Da's temperament is peculiar, and it's unlikely that he would be attached to Zhuo Langchan. Taishan's Priest Tianmen is very firm, and he would also never bend to other people's wishes. Your master, Mr. Yue, looks relaxed on the outside, but he's actually very serious on the inside, and very strict about preserving the tradition of the Huashan school. Mr. Yue would definitely fight against Zhuo Langchan, seeing that Zhuo Langchan would wipe out the reputation of the Huashan school. This leaves the Hangshan school. The 3 senior Shitai have all passed away, and this left the female disciples powerless to fight against Zhuo Langchan, and therefore they probably would have surrendered. Who would have thought that Dingxian Shitai would break with custom and hand the headmaster position into Brother's hand? Brother Great Master Abbot and I have talked about Dingxian Shitai's foresight, and we really admire her. It was all the more difficult for her to think about this, especially when she was already injured heavily. But she still managed to think it through. This shows just how much Dingshan Shitai had trained herself, and that even as she was a breath away from dying, she still had a clear mind. If Taishan, Hangshan, Huashan, and Hangshan schools ally together and do not permit the forming of this 5 mountain school, only then would Zhuo Langchan's plot be foiled, Changshu said. Nope, we have not met Dongfang Bubai yet. We've heard people talk about him and how he's like a powerful person. But we never met him yet. Ling Huchang said, but judging from the tone of voice Yue Ho used when he gave that order today, it seems that Taishan, Hangshan, and Huashan schools are already under Zhuo Langchan's control. Changshu nodded and says, yes. Lately, when we think of your master, Mr. Yue, Great Master Abbot and I have become really confused. We heard that Fuzhou's Lin family has a son who has taken your master as his master. Is this right? Yes, this martial brother Lin's name is Lin Pingzhi, Ling Huchang answered. His great-grandfather has passed down a book called the Evil Resisting Sword Manual. This rumor has been going around in Jianghu for a very long time. Everyone has said that this book contains a very powerful sword art. Brother must surely have heard of this. I have, Ling Huchang answered. Then he immediately told them of the search for the Buddhist robe in Fuzhou's Xiangyang Lane, how Songshan School sent people to snatch it, and how he himself got injured. Changshu hummed deeply after listening to this story. He then said, it is reasonable to suppose that your master found this Buddhist robe on you and gave it to your martial brother Lin. Yes, but later on, Martial's sister chased me and asked me for this evil-resisting sword manual. I find this problem really hard to solve, and as Junior has already been wrongly blamed for this for a long time, I didn't pay further attention to this problem. But what's really the truth behind this evil-resisting sword art? Could seniors please tell me? Changshu looked at Feng Zheng and said, Great Master Abbot, please tell Brother Ling Hu the whole story. Feng Zheng nodded his head a few times before saying, Headmaster Ling Hu, have you heard of the name Sunflower Manual? I've heard Junior's master mention it before. He said Sunflower Manual is a secret which contained a supreme martial art study, but it has been lost for a long time, and no one knows of its whereabouts. Later on, Junior heard Chief Ren saying that he passed this Sunflower Manual down to Dongfang Bubai. So this item, the Sunflower Manual, is currently in the hands of the Sun Moon sect. Feng Zheng shook his head and said, The book Sun Moon sect is incomplete and isn't the original. Yes, Ling Wucheng responded. He felt that if these two seniors didn't know of this secret in Wulin, then no one else would know of it. He also felt that the great master Feng Zheng was on the verge of revealing this really big secret. Hey, who are you calling a pervy historian, huh? Huh? Who are you calling that? You love Dongfang Bubai? Yeah, he's a good character. We'll get to see him in a few. Well, I don't know when we get to see him, but we'll get to see him. And he's an interesting character. Just gonna leave it at that. Feng Zheng lifted his head and longingly looked at the floating white clouds. During the days that Huashan School was separated into two, the Qi faction and the Sword faction, Huashan School's seniors were killing each other because of this division. Do you also know about this? Yes, but my master didn't talk about this in detail, Ling Wucheng answered. Feng Zheng nodded. Internal fighting in the school is really not a good thing So Mr. Yue didn't want to talk too much about it. The reason why Huashan School was divided into Qi faction and Sword faction was said to be because of this Sunflower Manual. He paused for a long time before slowly continuing. For a long time in Wulin, it has been said that this Sunflower Manual originated from the previous dynasty, created by an official of the imperial court. A government official? Ling Wucheng asked. The government official was a eunuch. The name of this master is forever lost. In addition, just why exactly such a highly skilled master became a eunuch in the imperial court will never be known to us now. What we do know is that the martial arts inscribed in that manual are deep and profound to the extreme. For the past 300-some-odd years, no one person has been able to take possession of the manual and master its arts. About 100 years ago, the manual came into the possession of the Putian Shaolin Temple. At that time, the abbot of that Shaolin Temple was Reverend Hongxie. He was an extremely wise and intelligent person, which was reflected in his vast understanding of martial arts. Reverend Hongxie was the perfect candidate, who possessed enough talent to master the manual's profound martial arts, but it has been claimed by Reverend Hongxie's students that their master never mastered the Sunflower Manual. Moreover, they have even said that after studying it for quite some time, Reverend Hongxie never even began to practice it at all. All right. Wait, what does that sound like? Wait, what does that voice sound like? What do you mean? I was trying to sound like an old monk, like an old wise monk. I guess it's not coming through. What's up, Willa? Welcome, Willa. So guys, he's about to tell us about the secret of the what do you call that again? The evil resisting sword art, I believe. So this is kind of important. Fang Zhang nodded and answered. Wait. Ling Wuchang reasoned, it must be because there was some secret part of the manual that was missing, and even such a talent like Reverend Hong Xie wasn't able to fully comprehend the Sunflower Manual without it. Fang Zhang nodded and answered, that might be a possibility. However, the old Taoist and I have never had the fortune of encountering this manual. Not saying that we would dare to practice its arts, but perhaps seeing what kind of profound and mystical writings are in it would be interesting. Chongshu smiled slightly and said, Great Master, you are being affected by worldly desires. We are practitioners of the martial arts. Because we haven't had the chance to see the manual, we can say we won't practice, but if we actually did get to see it, most likely we would be losing sleep and not eating, tirelessly studying the manual's words and meaning. The result would be that not only would we mistakenly waste our cultivation, but it would lead our mind to endless troubles and confusion. Because we haven't had the fortune to have seen the manual, I would say that we are the ones who are truly fortunate. Oh, is it loud? I can make it less loud. Yeah, give me feedback on the sound. I can make it less loud. Maybe I'm too close to the mic. All right. It's a little bit less loud now. Fang Zhang laughed. Old Taoist, you are right. This old monk is still not free of worldly longings. How shameful it is. He then turned his head back around to Ling Huchang and continued. Huashan School had two martial brothers who happened to be visiting the Shaolin Temple at that time, and they caught sight of the Sunflower Manual there. Ling Huchang thought, because the manual was so important, Shaolin must have taken measures not to allow anyone to see it. Those two martial brothers of Huashan must have secretly peeped at the manual. Fang Zhang continued, because of the urgency of the situation, those two brothers couldn't spend time to study the manual in depth during their stay at Shaolin, so the two divided up the work and each read and memorized half of the Sunflower Manual. Afterwards, they returned to Huashan and together studied and discussed each part that they read. But what happened was that the two martial brothers disagreed on a lot of what was written in the manual. When they tried putting their parts together, a lot of it did not make sense. Each believed what he read and memorized was correct, what he interpreted was correct, and the other person was mistaken. However, from the individual parts that each of them had memorized, neither one could come up with or practice anything substantial either. The two brothers used to be very close and were the best of friends. However, after this clash of interests, they became very heated rivals, and this was the cause of the split of Huashan into Qi and Sword factions. Mic had been set to the ASMR levels. Okay. Put the mic in my mouth. That'll fix it. Got it. You want me to deep throat the mic? This sounds much better? Good. Okay. Yeah, I lowered the gain on the mic, and I'm also a little bit further away from the mic, so hopefully this is better. So look at what we learned, right? There was something called the Sunflower Manual, which is like some really powerful martial arts. And these two brothers from the Huashan school found the manual, right? The manual was... Where was the manual? Yeah, the manual was held at one of the Shaolin temples. No, the manual was held at the Shaolin temple, and two brothers from the Huashan school happened to be visiting the manual, and they secretly took a peep at it. Right? They only had a short amount of time, so each brother memorized half of the manual. Right? But when they tried putting the parts together, they disagreed a lot on what the correct way to practice this martial arts was. So, and that was how Huashan, the school of Huashan, split into two factions, right? The Qi and the Sword factions, because of the two brothers. Li Hushang added, "Those two senior martial brothers, are they Huashan School's seniors Yue Su and Cai Zifeng?" Yue Su was the founder of Huashan's Qi branch, and Cai Zifeng was the founder of Huashan's Sword branch. The splitting of the two sects of Huashan was a thing of the distant past. Saying deep throat would get you demonetized? I don't think so. I don't think so, right? You can say that. But anyways, like, even if this video gets demonetized, it doesn't matter, because like this video doesn't get a lot of ad money anyways. Like these videos, they're all secret, right? Yeah, not a big deal. Fang Zhang went on with his story. Yes, the incident with Yue and Cai was soon discovered by Reverend Hong Xie. He understood that although the martial arts philosophies inside the Sunflower Manual were profound and deep, they were also They were also brutal, ferocious, and dangerous. He stated that the first step was the most difficult step in learning the arts of the Sunflower Manual. After the first step, learning the rest was relatively simple. All the martial arts in this world are relatively easy to learn in the beginning, and gets increasingly difficult as one progresses further. The Sunflower Manual was the exact opposite. The first step was extremely difficult, and even if a small mistake was made when training, if one didn't die from it, one would certainly be severely injured. So therefore he sent his disciple Reverend Du Yuan to try to convince the two Huashan brothers to stop trying to practice the Sunflower Manual, as it could be extremely harmful to them. Ling Wuchang said, "This martial art was unexpectedly very hard to learn in the beginning. If no one gave you any direction and you only learn from the book, then of course it would be very dangerous. But could it be that the two Huashan martial brothers didn't listen to his advice?" Fang Zhang answered, "That wasn't the case. That would be wrongly blaming the two of them. Looking at a person like me who's been practicing martial art for my whole lifetime, if one day I had the chance to take a peek at a deep and profound martial arts secret, how could I not be willing to study it? This old monk has cultivated my study in Buddhism for tens of years, but if one day I managed to get my hands on the manual, I would definitely still read it." Priest Changshu laughed at this earlier. How can a secular martial art master refuse it? How can a secular martial art master refuse it? Unexpectedly, this was exactly what happened to Reverend Du Yuan when he went up to see them. You can tell that they're all addicted to martial arts, right? They're all they're all like crazy passionate about martial arts. I'm hella rich. I had a moat built around this house last year to stop the fires. Yes. Yes, I built a moat around my house. Okay. Because things were burning down. California was burning down. You need to make a moat. How else would I save my house? Ling Huchong asked, could it be that the two Huashan brothers had ill intentions toward Reverend Du Yuan when he tried to coerce them into giving up the manual? Fang Zhang shook his head. That wasn't the case. They were actually very courteous to Reverend Du Yuan and admitted that they had actually looked at the Sunflower Manual. On the one hand, they apologized, and on the other hand, they asked for Du Yuan's advice on the writings of the manual. But they never expected that even though Reverend Du Yuan was Reverend Hong Xie's precious disciple, he had never once before heard or encountered the manual at all, because Hong Xie himself never really understood the writings of the manual, so he couldn't teach it to his disciple. But the two brothers, Yue and Cai, were certain that Reverend Du Yuan was proficient in the martial arts study of the manual, so they wanted to get his opinion on it. At the time, Du Yuan didn't really understand the verses from the manual that they recited to him either. He just casually explained the writings as they recited, and couldn't help but secretly memorize what they recited. Reverend Du Yuan was also an exceptional martial arts master as well as an extremely wise and intelligent person. Through his logical deductions of what the two brothers recited, the explanations he gave actually fit and made sense. So it turns out that Reverend Du Yuan was learning the script of the manual from the two brothers as they recited it. Correct. But originally, what the two brothers recited was not very much. But after hearing how the explanations Reverend Du Yuan gave them made sense, they couldn't resist the temptation and invited him to stay at Huashan for 8 more days. But after this visit, Du Yuan never returned to the Shaolin Temple. Ling Wuchang was surprised. Never returned? Where did he go afterwards? At that time, no one knew. But not long afterwards, Reverend Hong Xie received a letter from Reverend Du Yuan stating that his attachments to the world were too great, that he decided to leave the Buddhist realm and renounce his monkhood. He was also very ashamed and couldn't face his master anymore. Ling Wuchang felt that this was very strange and that there must be another reason for this. So this monk learned about this martial arts, right? The martial arts from the Sunflower Manual. And apparently he was so enamored with it that he left the Buddhist temple, right? He left his monkhood, probably to study that martial arts. Feng Zhang continued. After that incident, there was much suspicion and distrust between Shaolin and Huashan. The news that Huashan disciples had secretly studied the Sunflower Manual leaked to the public. And soon after, the 10 elders of the Devil Sect attacked Huashan. Just then, Ling Wuchang remembered the bones and skulls inside the cave behind the Cliff of Contemplation. He also recalled the engravings of the various sword arts on the cave wall and couldn't help from uttering an "ah" in acknowledging his comprehension. Oh, okay. So remember the cave that he was trapped in, or that he was punished to be Remember when Ling Wuchang was punished? And he had to stay in that cave, right? On the Cliff of Contemplation. Right, and he found out all those sword arts on the cave walls. Yeah. 1 second. Yeah, that was so that apparently that whole event happened because the devil sect attacked Huashan, probably to get the sunflower manual. What is it? Feng Zhang asked. Ling Huchang's face turned red and said, I've interrupted Abbott's story. Please, forgive me. Feng Zhang nodded his head and continued. This incident happened before your master was even born. The elders of the devil sect, attacked Huashan with the intention of stealing the sunflower manual. It was because of this incident that Taishan, Songshan, Huashan, Hongshan, and Hangshan formed an alliance. After receiving word, the other 4 schools came to Huashan's aid. A bloody battle occurred on Huashan, and all 10 of the Devil Sect elders were badly wounded. Yue and Tai also lost their lives in this battle, and as a result, the version of the manual that they penned was snatched away by the Devil Sect. That's why it's hard to say who had actually won this battle. 5 years later, the Devil Sect returned to attack, but this time the 10 elders came prepared. They had managed to understand the sword arts of the 5 mountain sword schools comprehensively and thought up counter moves to break all the sword arts of the 5 mountain sword schools. Priest Chongshu and Old Monk believed that even though the martial arts of the 10 elders were great already, to be able to comprehend and counter all the sword arts of the 5 mountain sword schools, the Sunflower Manual must have played some role in giving them such insights into martial arts theories. At this second battle, the 5 mountain schools actually suffered great losses. Many great masters lost their lives, and since that day, many of the intricate and complex sword arts of those schools were lost as well. However, those 10 Devil Sect elders were also unable to escape Huashan. Thinking of the fighting that happened at that time, it must have been ferocious and bloody. Ling Huchang said, Junior saw the remains of these 10 Devil Sect elders inside a cave in Huashan's Cliff of Contemplation, and I also saw a number of inscriptions engraved on the stone wall. Did you? What was written on the wall? Chongshu asked. The inscription was written in big letters, and it says, The 5 Mountains Sword Alliance, you shameless and despicable bunch, can't win in a fair fight. Dirty tricks are your specialty. Besides it were more sentences written in small letters, cursing and swearing at the 5 Mountains sword schools, like shameless, etc., etc., Ling Huchang told them. How could Huashan School let these slanders remain on the stone wall? This is really strange, Chongshu pondered. Junior discovered this stone cave accidentally, and no one else knows of its existence, Ling Huchang explained. He then immediately told them how he discovered this stone cave, and he also told them how someone with an axe had dug several hundred feet through the mountain, but this person had died from exhaustion, inches away from breaking through. Great Master Fang Zhang asked, using an axe, could it be that he was divine strength demon Fan Song? He was. There was a sentence on the wall that says Fan Song and Zhao He defeated Hangshan's sword art here. Zhao He. He's one of the 10 elders called Divine Flying Demon. Was he using a thunder mace? Fang Zhang asked. Junior doesn't know about this, but on the ground of the cave there was a thunder mace there. Junior remembered the inscription on the stone wall. The ones who defeated the Huashan schools' sword arts were called Zhang Chengfeng and Zhang Chengyun. It's true then. They are the 2 brothers, Divine Golden Monkey Demon, Zhang Chengfeng, and Divine White Ape Demon, Zhang Chengyun. It was said that their weapons were copper cudgels. That's right. The pictures on the stone wall showed cudgels defeating my Huashan School's sword art. It was really wonderful and unthinkable. That place you saw is apparently the trap that the 5 mountain sword schools had prepared to capture those 10 elders from the Devil's Sect. Once they were trapped in that mountain cave, they were locked up and were unable to get out, Fang Zhang deduced. Junior also has the same thought. That's why those people thought that they had been treated unfairly and wrote those swear words on the stone wall and touted that they had defeated all the sword arts of the 5 mountains sword schools. They wanted to let people know in the future that they hadn't been defeated in a fight, but had been trapped instead. There were also some Huashan schools' sword arts engraved on the stone wall. They were extremely wonderful, and it seems that even my master and master wife doesn't know about them. Junior doesn't know the reason for this, but now that I've heard a great master abbot relating the past story, it's certain that these high sword arts were lost after most of Huashan School's seniors lost their lives here. Hengshan, Taishan, and the other schools seem to have lost their high sword arts as well since then. A cudgel? Isn't a cudgel like a hammer? Either a hammer or like a bat. Like a bat shaped. Like a wooden stick with a like thicker end at the end. Yeah, let's see. There you go. A cudgel, like a club. That's right, Changshu affirmed. There were also some long swords that belonged to the 5 mountain sword schools, besides the bones of the Devil Sect's 10 elders, Ling Huchong added. Fang Zhang let out an unusual expression and said, I don't know the reason. Maybe the 10 elders snatched them from the hands of the 5 mountain sword school people. Have you talked to anyone about what you saw in that cave? After Junior discovered that cave, I've been going from one misfortune to the next, and haven't had any time to mention this to Master and Master Wife, but Grand Marshal Uncle Feng knows about it already. Fang Zhang nodded his head. My younger martial brother Fang Sheng once said the opportunity to meet Senior Feng and receive his favor. My younger martial brother Fang Sheng once had the opportunity to meet Senior Feng and received his favor. Martial brother Fang Sheng told me that your sword technique was taught by Senior Feng. We know that during the time when Huashan split into 2 branches, Senior Feng had already decided to leave Huashan to be on his own. Changshu said, It was said in Wulin that during the time when Huashan split into 2 and were fighting amongst themselves, Senior Feng was away in Jianan getting married. When he heard news of the fighting, he quickly returned to Huashan, but the sword faction had already lost with numerous casualties on their side. Otherwise, with his wonderful sword art in the fight, the Qi faction would never have gotten the upper hand. Senior Feng felt immediately that the Jiangnan's family that his wife was supposed to be from might be a hoax. Actually, that guy, Yue Zheng, had secretly received instruction from the Huashan's Qi faction to hire a prostitute and tell her to pretend to be a lady from an esteemed background, looking to be married so that they can restrain Senior Feng in Jianan. Senior Feng then went back to Jianan to look for that Yue family he was to marry, but everyone was missing. He realized then that he had been tricked. Rumor has it that Senior Feng was so extremely angry that he cut off his own head. Feng Zhang's expression changed as he looked at Changshu, wanting him to stop talking. But Changshu pretended not to understand, and the last thing he said was, Headmaster Ling Hu, this poor Taoist respects Senior Feng completely and would never dare to talk about his private life. So I told you about this matter today so that you understand that heroes get into trouble because of women. When a gentleman makes a mistake, it's not such a big deal, but they can't keep falling deeper and deeper into that mistake. Okay, so apparently the Qi faction of the Huashan school tricked Feng Qingyang, right? Ling Huchang's his master who taught him his like super cool martial arts. The Qi faction hired a prostitute to pretend to marry Feng Qingyang just to get him out of Huashan so they can have their own battle, so they can take over the school. Yeah, they tricked him. So he thought he was getting married. So he was away while all the fighting was happening. And when he got back, the fighting was over, and the sword branch had lost, right? And then he went back, and then he to look for his family, his supposed family, and he couldn't find anyone. Poor guy. And then this priest Changshu told him that story, or at least that part of the story, just to warn Ling Huchang that, hey, you shouldn't like, people get into trouble with women, right? You shouldn't he should stop seeing Ying Ying, right? Because she's a woman from the demon sect. All right, give me 5 minutes. Okay, it's been a while. I'll be right back. Hello, I'm back. So who can tell me who that male singer was? Who's the male singer in that song? It's Jackie Chan. It's Jackie Chan. That song is from, I think, an old movie. Not that old. I think like 10 years old or something. I don't know. But yeah, that was Jackie Chan singing. He's not bad, right? Like, he's not a bad singer. I have another like cover of that song that's really good, and it's done by like this YouTuber. It's like really young YouTuber. Yeah, I'll play that in the next break. Can I tell you the song title? No, I can't. Sorry. All right, I posted it in chat. There you go. Yeah, it is Jackie Chan. You're surprised, aren't you? Jackie Chan was trained in Chinese classical opera from a young age. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Oh. So he's like a professional singer. What can he do? I recently watched one of the old Jackie Chan movies. Not the movie, but one of his fight scenes. He has great fight scenes. If you guys want like some really cool things to watch, look up his fight scene from a movie called Who Am I think. Yeah, he has a ladder fight scene where he fights with this freaking ladder. Oh, so good. He's so good. All right, let's do this. Ling Huchong knew that he was using the analogy to talk about yin yang, but knowing that Priest Chong Shu had said this with good intentions, Ling Huchong just sighed and did not answer. He thought, Grand Marshal Uncle Feng has been living at the cliff of contemplation for all these years. So he really regrets about his past, and he's too ashamed to see people of the orthodox path in Wulin. That's why he told me not to tell anyone of his whereabouts, and he also said that from then on he doesn't want to see anyone from the Huashan school. A grave misfortune befell on him, and for these past tens of years he has been living by himself. After I've settled this big matter, I'll go up to the cliff of contemplation to talk to him for a while. Now that I'm no longer a member of the Huashan school, paying him a visit wouldn't be considered violating his order. Oh, so maybe that's why Feng Qingyang lives alone now? Because he's so ashamed of what happened. Like, he got tricked. The three people talked for half a day until the sun was going down the mountain, painting a crimson color across the horizon. Fang Zhang said, Not long after Huashan School's Yue Su and Cai Zifeng wrote down the Sunflower Manual, they were killed by the Devil Sect's 10 elders, so they didn't have time to practice it yet, and the manual was taken by the Devil Sect. That's why no one in the Huashan school had managed to learn any martial art from the manual. But Yue and Cai had perceived the manual differently. One said that the study of Qi was more important, while the other gave more importance to the study of sword. They had separately convinced the school's disciples with their own viewpoints, and this later resulted in the division of Huashan School into 2 branches, the Qi and sword. This division caused the disciples from the 2 branches to fight amongst themselves within the school. This manual is really a very inauspicious item. Changshu nodded his head. The 5 colors blind people, the 5 tones deafen people. That's the theory. Fang Zhang said, Even though the Devil Sect managed to get the partially completed manual written by these 2 brothers, perhaps it has no benefit at all. The 10 elders perished on Huashan because of this. Headmaster Ling Hu said that before that Chief Run passed down the manual to Dongfang Bu Bai. Perhaps the hatred between these 2 people was also caused by this manual. In actuality, this incomplete manual is probably not even as good as the one memorized by Lin Yuantu. Ling Huchong asked, Who's Lin Yuantu? Lin Yuantu was your martial brother Lin's great-grandfather, the founder of the Fortune Prestige Escort House. Okay, now we get to the evil resisting sword art. The one who used the 72 stances of the evil resisting sword art to shake the world. That was him. This senior Lin, did he also see the Sunflower Manual before? Ling Huchong inquired. He was Reverend Du Yuan, the disciple of Reverend Hong Xie, Fang Zhang explained. Ling Huchong was shaken when he heard this. So that's what happened. Reverend Du Yuan originally had the surname Lin, so when he went back to the secular world, he retook his original surname, Fang Zhang said. Okay. Remember, Du Yuan was the monk who went to the Huashan school and studied and heard from the 2 brothers the contents of the manual, right? The Sunflower Manual. And then afterwards he left the Buddhist school, right? He left Buddhism altogether. And he went back to the secular world, okay? And he's actually the great-great-grandfather of Lin Pingzhi. So, Senior Lin was Reverend Du Yuan, and he was also the same person who shook Jianghu with the 72 stances of the evil resisting sword art. This is really unexpected, Ling Huchang mumbled. Suddenly, sadness swelled over him as he remembered how Lin Zhinan died on that night in the worn-out temple outside Hangshan City. Du Yuan is 2 yuan. Du Yuan is 2 yuan. After this senior reverend went back to the secular world, he reverted back to his original surname, but he inverted his Buddhist name and took the name Yuan Tu. He got married, founded the escort house, and caused a big uproar in Jianghu. This senior Lin was an upright person. Even though he was running an escort house, his conduct was still heroic and righteous, and he was still eager to help people in distress. Remember, an escort house is not a brothel, right? An escort house is like a bodyguard house. They provide security, like private security for people. He was no longer a Buddhist monk, but he was still acting like a Buddhist. One only has to have a good heart to be a Buddhist. Not much difference exists between such a person and a Buddhist. Of course, not long after that, Reverend Hongxie heard about these events and realized that the head of the Lin Escort House was his most loved disciple, but he never paid him a visit, Fang Jiang told him. Where did this evil-resisting sword art come from after this senior Lin obtained the essence of the Sunflower Manual from the recitation of Huashan School's seniors Yue and Tai? How come this evil-resisting sword art that's been passed down in the Lin family is not very good? Ling Huchang asked. Evil-resisting sword art comes from the incomplete book of the Sunflower Manual. Both items came from the same origin, but both had only a small portion of the original manual. Fang Jiang turned his head around to Chang Shu and said, Brother Taoist, do you have more understanding about the art of the sword compared to me? Why don't you talk to young hero Ling Hu about this matter? Chang Shu laughed. If we hadn't been friends for many years, this old Taoist would have thought that you were teasing me with that kind of talk. In the art of the sword, besides Senior Feng's excellence at the current time, who else is above young hero Ling Hu? Fang Jiang said, Even though young hero Ling Hu's sword art is excellent, no one could even come close to you in comparing the study of the sword arts. We're all friends here, so we never have to say any meaningless words. There's no need to be polite. Zhang Shu let out a sigh before saying, Actually, this old Taoist knows that the study of the sword arts is vast, like the sea, and that what I know is only like a grain in a big granary. In the future, I don't know whether I'll have the chance to meet Senior Feng to consult him about this. He then turned towards Ling Huchang and said, Today, the evil-resisting sword art of the Lin family is ordinary and nothing spectacular. But actually, it is the same sword art as the one that Senior Lin Yuantu used to shake Jianghu back then. In those days, the headmaster of the Qingcheng school was Chang Qingzi, with the nickname number 1 sword in the West is 3 Gorgeous, but he still lost to Senior Lin. Today, Qingcheng School's sword art is much better compared to the Fortune Prestige Escort House's evil-resisting sword art, so there must be another reason behind this. What it is, I've been thinking for about a long time already. Actually, all the warriors who study the art of the sword have all been thinking of the reason behind this. Ling Huchang said, The family of martial brother Lin has all perished. Both his father and mother died miserably. that was all because of this doubt? That's right. The reputation of the evil resisting sword art is very well known, but the martial art of Lin Junan was very low. This disparity involuntarily caused other people to think that Lin Junan was too dumb and couldn't learn his own family's martial art. Then they thought a step further. If this sword manual were in my hand, of course I would be able to learn it until my sword art is as splendid as Lin Yuan Tu back then. Brother, for the last 100 years, Lin Yuan Tu wasn't the only one with a reputable sword art, but Shaolin, Wudang, Eimei, Kunlun, Dangtang, Qingcheng, and also the 5 mountain sword schools all have people to pass their sword arts down to. And other people never thought of actually taking these schools as sword arts, but Lin Zhernan's martial art was very poor, like that of a 3-year-old baby, and he also had a lot of gold in his hand, so everyone had the intention of robbing him. Zhang Shu explained. Ling Huchang said, this senior Lin Yuan Tu was Reverend Hong Xi's disciple, and he had studied martial arts in the Putian Shaolin Temple. He had most likely studied some astonishing martial arts while he was there, so this evil resisting sword art might be a sword art from the Shaolin school with a few changes and additions of his own. It's not necessarily true that it's a completely different sword art. There were also many people who thought the same thing, but the evil resisting sword art and the Shaolin school's martial art were completely different, and all the warriors studying the sword art knew it when they saw it. Hey, even though there were many people with the intention of robbing this sword manual, it was finally that shorty from Qingcheng who moved first. Even though that shorty Yu had a really thick face, he's so stupid. How can he be compared to your master Mr. Yue, who just bided his time and reaped the benefit? Oh. He's accusing his master. Ling Huchang's face changed color as he stammered, Priest, what are you saying? Changshu smiled slightly and said, that Lin Pingzhi was accepted into your Huashan school. Naturally, that evil-resisting sword art would also be carried into the school with him. I heard that Mr. Yue also has a lovely daughter who he wants to give away to your martial brother Lin. Is this right? He really is far-sighted. When Ling Huchang heard Changshu saying, your master Mr. Yue, who just bided his time and reaped the benefit, he felt angry that Changshu was insulting his honored master. But hearing him say that his master was far-sighted, he suddenly thought of the days when master sent second martial brother Lao Denhua in disguise along with little martial sister to Fuzhou to open up a wine shop. He didn't understand Master's intention at that time, but as he thought of it now, it must have been in connection with the Fortune Prestige escort house. Lin Zhenan's martial arts was ordinary, and Master had actually planned that move so deliberately. If it weren't for the evil resisting sword art, what else could it be for? But Master's plan was done skillfully, unlike that of Yu Canghai and Mu Gaofeng. Another thought immediately followed. Little Marshall's sister is an unmarried young girl, but why would Master tell her to go out and open up a wine shop? These seniors don't hold their tongues. They do not. They're saying whatever they think. They're saying everything that they're thinking right now. At this thought, a cold shiver ran up his spine, and he suddenly understood. Master wanted little Marshall's sister to accompany Marshall brother Lin. Actually, this has been arranged a long time ago. From the look of his face, Fang Zhang and Changshu noted that he looked uncertain and distressed. They knew that he respected his master, and that this kind of talk hurt him deeply. Fang Zhang said, "These were only idle talks between this old monk and priest Changshu. We were just wildly speculating. Your respectful master is very upright and known in Wulin as a gentleman. I'm afraid we're just thinking like a small person and absurdly blaming the gentleman." Changshu smiled slightly on hearing this. Ling Huchang's heart was in confusion. He was hoping that what Changshu said was not true, but deep down he knew that every word was right. Suddenly, he thought, originally, Senior Lin Yuantu was a monk. That's why there was a Buddhist hall in Xiangyang Lane, and that sword manual was also written on a Buddhist robe. My guess would be that he remembered every word and sentence by heart after being consulted about the manual by the seniors Yue Su and Cai Zifeng on Huashan. As he was still a monk then, that same night, he immediately wrote everything down on his robe so that he wouldn't forget. Changshu said, "Even now, this Sunflower Manual still carries a profound martial arts study. The Devil Sect has a part of it, and your master, Mr. Yue, has a part of it also. Your martial brother Lin has already joined the Huashan school, so Zuo Longchan will definitely give Mr. Yue some trouble. He'll have two intentions. One is to kill Mr. Yue in order to merge the 5 mountain sword schools, and the second one is to snatch his evil-resisting sword art." Ling Huchang continuously nodded his head and said, the priest thought correctly. The complete manual is in Putian Shaolin Temple. Does Zuo Longshan know this? If he does, then I'm afraid he'd go and attack the Shaolin Temple. Fang Zhang smiled. The Sunflower Manual in Putian Shaolin Temple was destroyed a long time ago, so there's no need to worry about it. Destroyed? Just before Reverend Hongxue passed away, he gathered all the disciples and told them the result of studying the manual. He then immediately put it into the fire, saying, The martial arts study in this manual is profoundly deep and wonderful, but there are many crucial points in its study. The person who had created it didn't necessarily manage to study it completely, as there are still many difficulties left in the manual, especially the first step in its study. This first step isn't only difficult, it simply couldn't be done. So if it were to be passed on to later generation, it would really be the bad luck of Wu Lin. He then left behind a letter for the abbot in Songshan's temple saying the same thing. Ling Huchang sighed. Reverend Hongxue was really wise. If there were no Sunflower Manual in this world, then all these changes in Wulin wouldn't happen. His thought immediately followed. No Sunflower Manual means that there's no evil-resisting sword art. Then Master wouldn't have arranged little Martial's sister to accompany Martial Brother Lin, and Martial Brother Lin wouldn't have joined the Huashan school, and he wouldn't have met little Martial's sister. But he turned around and thought, but I'm just a wanderer who makes friends with people from the unorthodox path. So what's that have to do with the Sunflower Manual? A gentleman follows his own instincts and reaps what he sows. There's no need to blame anyone else. Changshu said, on the 15th of next month, Zuo Langshan will be gathering the 5 mountain sword schools on Songshan to elect a headmaster. What's young hero Ling Hu's esteemed opinion on this? Ling Huchang laughed. Is there even a need for an election? This headmaster position naturally belongs to Zuo Langshan. Young hero Ling Hu doesn't want to oppose it? Changshu asked. Songshan, Taishan, Hangshan, and Huashan schools are already secured by him, while my Hangshan school is the only one left. Even if we oppose the merger, it'll be in vain, Li Hucheng answered. Changshu shook his head. That's not so. Taishan, Hangshan, and Huashan schools are intimidated by the power of the Songshan school, so they don't dare to openly object to this. Even if they said that they agree to the merger, they might not necessarily agree to this in their hearts. Fang Jiang said, In this old monk's opinion, young hero must oppose the merger of the 5 schools. As a principled person, Zuo Langshan would not necessarily say that everyone had submitted to this idea. But if the merger were to happen after he talks, then the position of headmaster would definitely be decided by a martial arts competition. If young hero were to use all of your power, then you'll be able to win the headmaster position from Zuo Langchan with your superior sword art. Oh, they want him to be the master of the entire the entire school, right? The new school that will be merged. Ling Hucheng was greatly surprised. How can I do that? I cannot. Changshu said, Great Master Abbot and old Taoist already talked about this for a long time, and we both feel that brother is a frank person who does as he pleases. You can even make friends with people from the Devil sect. If you become the headmaster of the 5 Mountains School, to be honest, the rules of the 5 Mountains School would relax, and the conduct of the disciples might go down. This isn't necessarily the good fortune of Wu Lin. Ling Wuchang laughed loudly and said, What the priest said is right. How can Junior be capable of taking care of a bunch of other people? If the top were crooked, then the bottom would be crooked too. I am only a loafer who likes to drink wine. Neither a loafer nor a wine lover will harm people, but a person of wild ambition can harm a lot of people. If brother becomes the headmaster of the 5 Mountains School, then firstly, the seniors and disciples of the 5 Mountains Sword Schools wouldn't be bullied around. Secondly, you wouldn't go and attack the Devil sect, nor would you come to annex our 2 schools, Shaolin and Wudang. Thirdly, brother also wouldn't annex other schools like Eimei, Kunlun, and the others. Oh god, doing that old voice is hell on my throat. Changshu Fang Zhang smiled. Priest Changshu and this old monk have agreed to this plan. Even though we're saying what we're doing is to benefit Jianghu, half of what we're doing is actually for our own benefit. Changshu added, We're speaking frankly here. The old monk and this old priest came to Hangshan to give our support to brother and to plead for the lives of people from both the orthodox and demonical path. Fang Zhang joined his palms together and prayed, Ami Tuo Po. If Zuo Langshan were to become the headmaster of the 5 Mountains School, then who would know when the killings would end? Ling Hucheng took a deep breath and said, Ling Hucheng wouldn't dare decline the order given by seniors, but Junior is a useless person and is already very absurd that I became the headmaster of Hangshan. But I was forced into it, and there's nothing I can do. However, the heroes of the realm will laugh till the teeth fall off if I aspire to become the headmaster of the 5 Mountains School. Junior clearly understands the 3 things mentioned, and yet Junior doesn't dare to become the headmaster of the 5 Mountains School. On the 15th of the 3rd month, Junior will surely go to Songshan to make a big disturbance and say that Zuo Langshan can't become the 5 Mountains School's headmaster. Perhaps it would be enough for Ling Hucheng to just make a big disturbance there. Changshu said, "That's absurd. When the time comes and you're forced to do it, then you must become the headmaster of the Fire Mountain School." Ling Huchang just shook his head. Changshu went on, "If you didn't go against Zhuo Langchan, then he would definitely become the headmaster. Once the 5 schools become one, the first thing Headmaster Zhuo would do is naturally to kill you first." Ling Huchang was silent and let out a long sigh. He then said, "That can't be helped, then." Changshu said, "But if you were able to escape and he was unable to capture you, then Zhuo Langchan would just help himself to killing the disciples of your Hangshan school. Dingxian Shitai put so many disciples under your hand. Are you just going to leave them to be butchered by Zhuo Langchan?" Ling Huchang slapped the railing on the bridge and said loudly, "I cannot!" Fang Zhang also added, "By then, Zhuo Langchan would also not let your master wife, martial brothers and martial sisters off. In the years after that, big misfortunes will definitely fall on their heads. Are you still going to ignore all of this?" Ling Huchang shivered in fear, and the hair at the back of his neck stood up. He stepped back a couple of steps and saluted Fang Zhang and Changshu deeply. "Thank you for seniors' advice. Otherwise, Ling Huchang wouldn't have worked hard and would have harmed many people." Fang Zhang and Changshu returned his propriety. Fang Zhang said, "On the 15th of the 3rd month, this old monk and priest Changshu will lead our disciples to go to Songshan to help young hero Ling Hu." Changshu said, "If Zhuo Langchan's Songshan school does something against the rules, then our Shaolin and Wudang schools will put a stop to it." Ling Huchang was happy to hear this and said, "If the 2 seniors were there to preside over the proceedings, then Zhuo Langchan wouldn't dare to commit his evil acts." The 3 of them finally finished their discussion. Even though there were many difficult things ahead of them, they felt easier after deciding what to do. Changshu laughed. We should return. The new headmaster has been accompanying an old monk and an old Taoist for a long time. They must be wondering where you are. I'm afraid they must be worried by now." The 3 of them turned around and had just walked 7 or 8 steps when suddenly they all halted at the same time. Ling Huchang shouted, "Who's there?" He was aware of the sounds of breathing coming from one end of the sky bridge. It was apparent that there were people hiding inside the left spirit turtle pavilion of the hanging temple. As soon as he called out with the sounds of pung, 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 many windows of the spirit turtle pavilion were slammed open at the same time. Many arrows were seen pointing out from the windows aimed at the 3 of them. At the same time, the windows of the divine snake pavilion behind them also slammed open and more arrows were aimed at the 3 of them. Alright, I think I need another break. One more break. Okay, then we'll read the rest of it. Alright, 5 minutes. Alright. Let's continue. Looks like they are ambushed. Fang Zhang, Changshu, and Ling Huchang were the present world's top masters. Under ordinary circumstances, even though the bows and arrows were not ordinary weapons, and the people using them were not ordinary either, how could any group actually fight the 3 of them? But the 3 were on the sky bridge spanning between the 2 pavilions, and below them was a bottomless abyss, which prevented them from jumping down. Furthermore, the bridge was only a few feet wide and limited their maneuverability, and added to that, they didn't have any weapons. Thus the trio couldn't help feeling frightened of this ambush. As a host, Ling Huchang quickly stepped in front of the other two people and shouted, "Daring rats! You don't dare to show yourselves!" But they only, what a good host, to sacrifice your life for your guests. But they only heard someone shout, "Shoot!" 17 to 18 black water arrows were immediately shot out from the windows. Unlike ordinary feathered arrows, these arrows carried water, and the water was released from the points of the arrows, then shot out. As these water arrows were shot towards the sky, they looked jet black. But as they tipped over in the evening sky, the arrows turned into a strange color, and the air around Ling Huchang and company was filled with rotten corpse or dead fish smell, which made them want to vomit. The tipped over water arrows started to rain down onto the bridge. Some of the water hit the wooden railings of the sky bridge and burned small holes through them. Even though Fang Zheng and Cheng Shu were very experienced, they had never seen this kind of fierce poison water before. If the arrows were just ordinary feathered ones, the three of them could have blocked them by transferring their chi into their sleeves. But as the poisoned water moistened the top of their bodies, they became afraid that it might bore through to their bones. The two elders looked at each other and saw their expressions change, and their eyes filled with fear. Such fear in the eyes of these two headmasters were really rarely seen. After this wave of poisoned water was shot out, that person behind the window shouted out in a clear voice, "This poisoned water was shot towards the sky. If it was aimed at your bodies, what would you think would have happened?" As he said this, 17 to 18 arrows were slowly lowered and aimed at the three of them. The sky bridge ran 10 feet long, with its left side connected to the Spirit Turtle Pavilion, while its right side was connected to the Divine Snake Pavilion. Both pavilions were filled with people pointing poisonous arrows at them. Even though the three of them had high martial arts, it was still very difficult for them to escape. When Ling Huchang heard the bright and clear voice of this person, he recalled whose voice it was. Chief Dongfang's people with the gift. What a good gift. Wait. The person speaking from inside the Spirit Turtle Pavilion was really Jia Bu, who was the person sent by Dongfang Bu Bai with those gifts. Oh. Jia Bu laughed loudly and shouted, "Master Ling Hu is very bright to be able to recognize me from my voice. Since I already use a contemptible deceit to gain the upper hand, and a bright person wouldn't want to fight a losing battle, does Master Ling Hu admit defeat?" Jia Bu himself already admitted to using a contemptible deceit, so Ling Huchang couldn't find any fault with what he said. He moved his chi into his Dantian region and laughed long and loud, shaking the whole valley. "Ha ha 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 ha! I'm here conversing with seniors from Shaolin and Wudang, and all the people who came up the mountain today are my good friends, so I didn't arrange for any protection. So now I have fallen into Brother Jia's trap, and I cannot not admit my defeat." Ling Huchang answered. "That's very good. Chief Dongfang respects the seniors of Wulin and regards the importance of young heroes highly. Furthermore, the young lady Ren has grown up under Chief Dongfang from a very young age. So, in respect towards young lady Ren, we don't dare to be rude towards Master Ling Hu." Ling Huchang just uttered an huh without answering back. While Ling Huchang was talking to Jia Bu, Fang Zheng and Cheng Shu were observing the situation and were looking for a crack in their line to rush at. But looking at the numerous water arrows at their front and back, even though they would be able to wipe out more than 10 arrows at the same time, it would be impossible to take them all out. Even if their enemies managed to just shoot one water arrow through, it would be very difficult for the three of them to protect their lives. After the two of them had a look around, both of their eyes seemed to be saying, "We can't act rashly." They heard Jia Bu go on, "Since Master Ling Hu already admitted defeat, both parties can avoid injuries. This is really what I wished for. Chief Dongfang actually ordered us to invite Master Ling Hu, Shaolin Temple's abbot, and Wudang School's headmaster priest to attend a banquet at my humble sex's gathering altar on Darkwood Cliff for several days. It's really our good fortune that the three of you are here together. How about if we go now? Ling Hucheng uttered another huh, thinking how could there be such an easy thing in this world, because once the three of them left the Sky Bridge, subduing Jiabu and Shang Guanyun would be as easy as turning over his palm. As expected, Jiabu followed by saying, "But the martial arts of the three of you are too high. If you change your mind midway through the journey and are not willing to go to Darkwood Cliff, then we'll have no way of stopping you. That's why we gathered our nerves to ask the three of you to lend us your 3 right hands." Okay, sure. "Lend you our 3 right hands?" Ling Hucheng asked. "That's right. Could the 3 of you please cut your right arms first? Then we'll be much more at ease," Jiabu replied. Ling Hucheng laughed loudly and said, "Ha ha ha! That's how it is. Dongfang Bubai is afraid of our sword arts, so he planned this trap. He wanted us to cut our right arms so we couldn't use any weapons. Then he'll have no more worries." Jiabu replied, "It's not certain that he'll have no more worries, but Ren Wo-sing would have lost a powerful help, and that would have weakened him by a lot." "Sir, you're speaking very frankly," Ling Hucheng said. "I'm just a nobody," Jiabu said. He raised his voice and said, "Great Master Abbot, Priest, Headmaster Priest, are you two going to peacefully give your arms up, or are you going to stake your lives here?" Changshu replied, "All right. Dongfang Wubai wants to borrow our arms, so we'll lend our arms to him. But we're not carrying any weapons with us, so it's difficult to cut our arms off." As he just finished saying this, a flash of light flew out from the window as a steel ring was tossed out. This steel ring was a foot long in diameter and had a very sharp edge. There was a horizontal bar in the middle to hold it. It was another sex's weapon. If there was a pair of these, then it would become a Qiankun ring. Ling Hucheng was standing at the front, so he extended his hand to grab it. He couldn't help laughing bitterly, as he thought that this Jiabu had really calculated everything. Even though the edge of this steel ring was very sharp and useful for cutting off their arms, it was too short to brandish around and block the incoming water arrows. Jiabu shouted out severely, "Since you have already promised, quickly cut your arm off. Don't drag the time along thinking that someone's coming to your rescue. I'm going to count to 3. If your arms are not cut by then, I'll release the poison water. 1. Liu Chong said in a whisper, "I'll charge at them first. Follow behind me." "No," Changshu replied. 2. Jiabu continued with his count. Ling Hucheng lifted the steel ring with his left hand while thinking, "Great Master Fang Zheng and Priest Changshu are my Hangshan School's guests, so I can't let them be harmed. When his count reaches 3, I'm going to toss this steel ring, brandish my sleeves, and charge up. All the poison water would definitely be aimed at me, and the 2 of them may find an opportunity to get away." He then heard Jiabu call out, "Everyone, get ready. I'm about to call 3. Suddenly, they heard a clear and crisp female voice shouting from the top of the Spirit Turtle Pavilion. "Wait!" Someone wearing a pale green gown floated down from the top of the pavilion and landed in front of Ling Hucheng. It was Ying Ying. Yay! Ying Ying to the rescue. Ling Hucheng hastily called out, "Ying Ying, step back!" Ying Ying shook her left hand a few times at Ling Hucheng at her back. She then called out, "Uncle Jia, the Honorable Yellow Face is very well known throughout Jianghu. Since when are you doing this kind of improper things?" Jiabu replied, "This young lady, you move away. Don't touch the water." "What are you doing here? Uncle Dongfang told you and Uncle Shangguan to deliver gifts to me here. How did you get bribed by Songshan School's Zuo Langchan that you are actually being rude towards the headmaster of the Hangshan School? Ying Ying chided. Who said I've been bribed by Zuo Langchan? I received Chief Dongfang's secret order to capture Ling Huchong and bring him back to the Dark Wood Cliff. Nonsense. Chief's Dark Command Wood is here. Nonsense. Chief's Dark Command Wood is here. Chief's order is Jiabu is secretly rebelling. Anyone who sees him must capture and execute him immediately and will be heaped with gifts. As she said this, she raised her right hand high above her head, holding the Dark Command Wood. Jiabu was furious and he shouted, "Release the arrow!" Did Chief Dongfang tell you to kill me? Ying Ying asked. You're disobeying Chief's decree. Uncle Shangguan, seize that traitor Jiabu and you'll be promoted to the position of Elder of the Green Dragon Hall, Ying Ying called out. That's it. We're done. We're done with the chapter. Cliffhanger. Sorry, guys. Wait, why can't you cut off alcoholic's arms? He needs his arms to lift the cups to his mouth. Ha ha ha. Well, you can cut off one arm, and then the alcoholic can use the other arm to drink. Okay. Yeah, how did you guys like that chapter? That's a good chapter, right? We found a lot of background information. So it turns out that all of these martial arts, like the evil resisting sword art and the martial arts of the Qi and sword branches of the Huashan school, all came from this one sunflower manual way back in the day. It's a dark wood cliffhanger. Good job, Cactus Pear Jam. Good job. Yeah, we found out a lot of background information, and it looks like even the heads of the Shaolin school and the Wudang school, even they don't like Mr. Yue, right? Even they don't like Ling Hucheng's master. Yeah, and they think he planned everything. I think he planned to get Lin Pingjie to join the school and then steal his evil resisting sword art. What's up, Unknown Dragon? What's up, Scarabite? Nice of you to join at the end. We're almost done. Yeah, it was a good manual. Yeah, the one question about the evil resisting sword art is how come if it was so powerful, how come the Lin family, like, their martial arts is not that good, right? If their martial arts is so powerful, why do they suck so much? Why are their power levels so low? So that's still a question that hasn't been answered. Yeah, a lot of history in this chapter. All right. Gonna have some wine. Ugh. Oh, almost finished, huh? Yeah, this much. How is the throat? I'll survive. Not that bad, but yeah. Doing that scratchy old man voice is not good on the throat. Oh no. All right, cheers. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I'll see you next time. I love you. Bye.